Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a Shadow Arcane Archer build in Baldur's Gate 3. This will be a combination of the Arcane Archer fighter that was added in patch 8 alongside the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. I was requested to do a build on this as kind of like a magical version of the Beastmaster Ranger because we get ourselves a dog too, and it's actually a decently powerful combination. You wouldn't expect it to be, but I'll be breaking that down in this video. And the first thing, I think it's best to start with the fighter. Both of them have constitution saving throw proficiency. However, the fighter will also give you heavy armor proficiency, which is great early game. And the fighter is just solid as well early game because of the banishing arrows. We'll be going with either the defense perk or the archery, which gives a +2 bonus to range weapons. But since we have spells, I think it's best to go with the armor class increase. And for the ability score spread, we're going to have to spec around our charisma. And I think it's actually best to go with dexterity. So we're actually going to dump that, put their points into our charisma here to get that up to 16, get our dexterity up to 16, constitution 14, and those stats there. I think this one works best for this. Now, the arcane arrows do require you to have a bit of intelligence. In early game, you can use the intelligence headband, but once you get to Act 2, you can also use the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, which will also give you a bonus to your spell save DC, which benefits it as well. So that's another option we got. At level 2, you get Action Surge, which is really powerful because you can use that for spell casting or melee attacking. And then we get the Arcane Archer subclass. So with this, we get to pick a cantrip Guidance, or if you have a light cleric, you can go with the light perk to help benefit them. And we're going to want to have Banishing Arrow. This is very useful early game because you can banish targets and just take them out of the fight. Later on, you can also banish Steel Watchers to prevent them from exploding and taking out your team. I also like to have the Seeking Arrow because this can hit a target when you may not be able to hit a target, and also applies Fairy Fire. And then also the Shadow Arrow can blind the target, which is extremely useful. Or Piercing Arrow for some early game damage, as it does hit in a pretty large area of effect, although this arrow did get nerfed pretty recently. So if you don't want to go the Piercing Arrow, you can go Shadow Arrow like that. And Piercing Arrow, almost better to use an arrow of many targets. Level 4, we get to take a feat. And at this point, I'd recommend increasing dexterity or your charisma, although our spell save DC does get benefited by the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, so dexterity is probably the best choice. And at level 5, we get the extra attack. It's a big power spike. What more can I say? At level 6, I actually think it's best to add in the Sorcerer at this point. And then this will also give us a very nice option to take Booming Blade, which gives us a lot of damage. Mage Hand, so they can throw health potions at us if we need another healer. I like to have Minor Illusion or Bone Chill if you're going into Act 2. This can prevent targets from receiving healing. So the end boss of Act 2, really big nerf for it. And I also recommend taking Firebolt or Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost reducing the target's movement speed, and Firebolt being able to explode things. We'll also be taking the shield spell, and on top of that, also magic missile, as you like to have a guaranteed hit spell. And then we're going to take the Shadow Magic Sorcerer, which gives us the Strength of the Grave. If we get down, we can stand back up, and we get Dark Vision up to 24 meters. At level 2, we get our Meta Magics, and we're going to take the Distance Spell and Twin Spell, alongside Chromatic Orb for the dog, because it can apply omens on targets once we get to level 6 of Sorcerer, and Chromatic Orb will cover all elemental damage types that the dog can apply. But Thunderwave is another good choice. I think it's nice to be able to recover our sorcery points using Chromatic Orb. And at level 3, we actually get a huge power spike because we get the Eyes of the Darkness. This uses our sorcery points to be able to create darkness, and we can see within that darkness, similar to the Hexblade Warlock getting their ability to Devil's Sight, which lets them see. This is huge because we can be stealthy while also dealing lots of damage. So we get to choose from a good list of spells here. Misty Step for that teleportation is really good. Scorching Ray, solid damage as well. Hold Person, likely the best choice here because it can give critical hits on close range. But also Shadow Blade's another really useful spell. I know it's been done to death. Shadow Blade's a good spell. We all know. Quickened Spell is the meta magic we'll be taking at level 3 here, because Quickened Spell is super beneficial. At level 4, we get to take another cantrip. And again, I mentioned Firebolt for exploding things, or you can take the Acid Splash there. For this next spell, we can go between Misty Step again. The Teleport to save yourself is really nice. Mirror Image, increase the armor class by 9. Scorching Ray for the damage. And Shadow Blade is probably the best choice, but I'm going to go with Misty Step for that extra bit of survivability. And we'll go with an ability score improvement on our dexterity to give ourselves better armor class, better bow attacks, and a whole lot of other benefits. And then at level 5, we get our access to level 3 spells with Lightning Bolt, Fireball, and Counterspell being some of the top picks. Haste is nice too, but we already have a concentration with the darkness. And if your haste breaks, you become lethargic, which is not great. You lose your turn. So Lightning Bolt, I think, is the best here because we can go into darkness and spam that in a long area of effect. And at level 6, we get our Hound of Ill Omen, which allows us to create the dog, which is really, really fun. And again, you can recover your sorcery points using it. Sleet Storm, Counterspell, or Fireball, the best spell choices. We're going to go all in on offense because this isn't meant to be a meta pick build. I'm just making it the strongest possible with the tools we have available. At level 7, you get another sorcery point. If you were to go with the fighter, you get a feat. It just depends. Do level 4 spells matter more than a extra feat? It's entirely your choice. I like to go with Ice Storm for the extra crowd control because you can make ice surfaces and then have your darkness there as well. Sleet Storm being another good choice too. As for gear, as I mentioned, the Helmet of Arcane Acuity can give you a better chance for landing your spells, and especially if you use an arrow of many targets to stack that up very high really quickly on just a single action. And another good option is the Seal Watcher Helmet. If you want to be unblindable at all times, this is a way to do it, although we do get our own version Dark Vision. Haste Helm early game will give you extra movement speed, which is really good to have. The Diadem of Arcane Synergy will actually add our Charisma modifier to our weapon attacks, which can be good too. Also, obviously, the Birthright for that plus to your Charisma works well, or the Hood of the Weave. Early game, the best one being the Warped Headband of Intelligence, and then also you can swap out to Helmet of Arcane Acuity. Cloak of Protection, but if you're the Dark Urge, the Deathstalker Mantle is going to be your best choice there. I also want the Armor of Agility. Best armor class available, whatever armor you got. There's no real best pick. If you really wanted something that's also good, the Dark Justiciar Half-Blade, which will give you advantage on stealth checks when obscured. And then you also have Shield of Faith Roost, so that'll come in damage by 2. And then also get advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, which is pretty nice to have. We also got the Helldust Gloves, but early game, you can go with the Gloves of Dexterity and dump your Dexterity and go all in on your Spellcasting Intelligence stat or Charisma whenever you add that in. Gloves of Belligerent Skies, also a good choice to go with. And the Gloves of Battle Mage's Power. So if you use Booming Blade, you can also get the benefits of Arcane Acuity, similar to the helmet there. But late game, this is a better choice because it gives you a bonus and additional damage on your attack. So yeah, earlier games, you can go with like Gloves of Dexterity. However, Evasive Shoes for better armor class, although the Boots of Stormy Clamor also work very well as an Act 1 item, as well as the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. And we also got the Amulet of Greater Health, but you can also go with really whatever choice you got. The Psychic Spark to boost your magic missiles is nice early game if you want to go with that. Periaptive Wound Closure, receive some better healing. I also have Crusher's Ring for more movement speed and the Ring of Protection for increased armor class. However, you can go with Killer Sweetheart for the free crit. Really, whatever items you got. You could even go with the Abandoned Mystic Scoundrel because we do have Hold Person we can land, although it's better on a Bard or a Paladin. The Ring of Free Action for better movement speed. Even the Strange Conduit Ring can also work well because this will give you additional psychic damage when we're concentrating, and we're going to have a concentration on Darkness or Haste, so that works good too. And then also Viconia's Walking Fortress and Fowler Alluve, which is a great weapon to go with. But if you wanted to go all in on, like, it really depends because we're going to be using archery for the most part. So you could go with something like the Knife of the Under Mountain King as an option. If you're evil, Sharp Spear of the Evening works well because this gives you blind immunity. Works better on another character though, so you can both give the benefits of the darkness. Marka Heshker as for staffs works great because you can get Chain Lightning from that, and you're normally not able to get Chain Lightning. So that can work well too, because if you want to get a high level spell, that's pretty much the way to do it. And then for bows, you could go with if you wanted to do a strength potion, you could take the Titan String Bow. That's going to be the strongest overall option. But that does require you to have the Titan String Bow strength potion for this to maximize its benefit. Hand crossbows are another good choice. The Hellfire hand crossbow and Nair Mister are good choices too. But the Titan String Bow kind of works best here. So we'll roll with that and pop a strength potion to show off the maximum amount of damage. The Strange Conduit Ring can also be swapped out if you got the Acid Band that gives 2 acid damage, because that can also apply to our weapon attacks. So the bow will then do 2 acid and 1d6 of fire. And then combined with the Strange Conduit Ring, you can get actually a lot of extra damage riders going. Now, another nice thing about the dog is you can summon it in and it's permanent. So if you're doing a long rest, you can always get your dog to last through it. So that can be a good thing to save your sorcery points for better spell casting. So to start things off for combat, I would recommend actually putting down Eyes of the Darkness here right away. We need a bit of crowd control, and this is a way to blind a bunch of targets and kind of keep them away. So that's the first action we'll be rolling with. Then I would actually recommend, we do have arcane arrows. If there's any target in specific that we need to take care of, a banishing arrow will be a good choice for like mages, but we can also just easily enough go with an arrow of many targets to stack up our spell save DC And since we're attacking from darkness, we have advantage, so we can pop that off. It's going to go around doing the acid fire and psychic damage to a bunch of targets, and then we're going to get our arcane acuity auto hit up to 8 turns. So it's a +8 to our spell save DC. So when we go to actually do any type of spell casting, we already have a 25 spell save DC, which is huge. So it makes us very likely to land our spells. We can always follow that up with another one, as there's a target here that I want to take out, so hopefully, yeah, we were able to take them out. And we broke the concentration, so our dog is no longer ensnared there. This works perfectly. And then we also have Action Surge, so the nice thing about Action Surge, then we can use this to go again. And you can also go with a Ice Storm here, because Ice Storm is actually really good crowd control, so we can pop this down and then make an ice surface there for anyone else to slip and fall on, so that can be good as well. And then we have our bonus action to be able to use any type of like Misty Step types spell to get back away, Second Wind if we needed some healing, and then on top of that we can also twin a spell. So yeah, this can be, or we can quicken a spell, so this will allow us to actually move once more. So yeah, we can set up, there's a group that just appeared right there, so we can actually line this up perfectly to be able to go with a lightning bolt straight through, just short of the target. So normally we would be able to hit all 3 of them, so actually we might be able to. We'll try that again. There we go. If we hit the side of the lightning, it doesn't actually block the targets down here, so you can see here we're able to actually line up and hit all 4 of them there with a quickened spell. It's perfect, and then we can just camp out in our darkness and be safe. And you're going to see sometimes they'll still try to attack you, but their hit chances, they're blinded. They're not going to have a good chance. They will do throwing attacks through the darkness, though, so that's something that can work. And then we have our dog here, which we can use the either Ominous Bite here to apply an omen, or we can use the Umbral Tangle to hit. If there's multiple targets near us, we want to use that to ensnare them. But we'll try to apply the omen. It's not easy to have that hit. Then you just go into the darkness there. Unfortunately, I got it hit. The dog will splinter off. It gets hit with a melee attack without any type of radiant damage. And we got our first prone there with the ice. So again, that's why we want to set up that ice, just because it's super useful for survivability. So the thing is, we have a target over here and a target here that we need to deal with, but the ice is a good crowd control, and they can't spellcast into here, so we're pretty safe. So that means that we can just go with our arrows here. Now we can also use a banishing arrow to get rid of that target there, since they are a big threat if we're able to reach them without slipping on our ice. Because yeah, if we're able to take out a high value target like that, boom, we banish them. That's perfect. So we got rid of the spellcast that could use a command spell on us, and then we can follow up with our second action with classic arrow many targets, use it on the target that's likely to hit the most. Boom, went around and actually ripped through 4 targets with a single arrow. That is incredible. And then we can use our spell casting to be able to take out the rest of them. That target there is banished, so we can do a booming blade, we can do an arrow attack, we can drop a lightning bolt, we can even use some of our other spells too. But we did use up our level 4 spell slot, so I'm actually be nice to them, and I'll just use Kreska's Favor so that I can get a more powerful spell in the next turn. Priority is using Kreska's Favor before you get into combat. Yeah. And our ice actually wore off, so they're not going to slip on that again, but they're also not going to be able to hit us unless they do a throwing attack. And most characters aren't spec'd out for throwing. As you can see, they miss quite frequently, so that makes it easy for us to take over. And then what we can do is we can just hit them with a powerful chain lightning with our high spell save DC, 50 damage, boom, perfect. And our other target is banished there, otherwise we would normally be able to attack them, so we just got to wait that off. But again, that's why I want to get rid of them, because they're a high value target. So then you can also just pop down like a mage hand if you wanted to use your action on something, because mage hand could then again, you can drop a potion to it and then use it to throw it to you or your teammates. And the target is back, so then we can just go ahead with a I guess an arrow attack of some sort. We could use like the shadow arrow or the seeking arrow. If we have a hard time hitting them, it'll actually curve and hit the target, so that can be nice. You can use that to make sure you do land a shot on a target. But yeah, that's a shadow magic sorcerer multiclass, the Arcane Archer fighter. This is a thematic build I was requested to do for darkness. We got our goodest doggo there. It's actually pretty powerful and fun to play as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next video.